It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha! Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Brouhaha. Marshall Wood with Dale McKee, ready to do it one more time. Good evening to you, my dear Dale. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Mr. Wood.
As always. You're always great. How do you pull that off?
Well, sometime I just tell you I'm great.
You just lie.
Really not.
You just lie. That's the way to do it. Oh, well, a lot of stuff going on in the world of sports. I read an article this morning that just kind of caught my attention. I'm going to share it with you. Now, the title of this is by The Spun, and the rumor swirling around that Big Ten will be adding 4 new schools this week, and those schools are. Let's see if I can find them. They shouldn't be hard to find because there's some good ones. How about the Big Ten says they may add this week Washington, Oregon, Florida State University, and Clemson. I mean, I kind of stuttered on that last one. Clemson. Now, when I ran that by you, you just blew that all out of the water, maybe.
Well, you read something and I read something.
Yeah. So when did you read your...
I think I read mine yesterday.
Okay. I read mine today. Nanny, boo-boo.
But people want you to read their articles. So
yeah.
So they're gonna make it like, hey, this could be.
So I'm a shallow person. So you're deep.
I am.
You're deep. I'm shallow. But see, I look at this and go, oh my goodness. There's some big names going to the Big Ten. What's the SEC gonna do? But you're not buying all that. You're steady and smooth. So what's your twist on that? What did you read?
Well, I read somewhere where last week, Colorado has decided to join the Big 12.
Right.
And of course, now I can understand some of the other Pac-12 teams getting desperate. Okay, what are we going to do here? Where are we going to end up? And I understand that, and I'm sure that Oregon and Oregon especially would be, because of Nike, would be a great addition to any conference. But I also looked, my article that I read yesterday said that basically ESPN had told the SEC after Texas and Oklahoma, don't worry about adding anybody else because we can't give you any more money for TV rights. They thought, if you bring all these other people in, you're going to get more TV money. But the ESPN is saying that there is a limit on, what we can give you. And so you need to just stay where you are.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, it's money.
Really?
They're not going to, so you say there's no...
They follow the money.
Yeah, I know, but they said there's no more money, no matter how many, and I was wondering, all these firings of people, were they trying to make more money? I mean, they fired David Pollock, who I just was crazy about, and they only paid him, $80-something thousand a year, I read, and they should pay, I thought it'd been a lot more than that.
Well, how much are you paying me?
No, we're not going to disclose that. Okay. You don't even need to know that. Your wife knows. That's all that matters. But anyway, do you think that there's some relationships, there may not be any more money, and that they may be cutting some of these broadcasters off because of that? What's your tweet?
Well, the thing about it is, do you have ESPN at your house? I mean, do you watch ESPN?
No.
Okay. Well, people that subscribe to any cable, streaming service, or anything that's got related to sports is going to get a nickel or dime out of it. If you're showing a Major League Baseball game, everybody, even if you don't watch the game, you're still paying for it. Like, for instance, Direct Television, if you have a subscription to them, and and you don't watch sports at all, part of the money that you pay, they're paying for sports out of your money, and you're not even watching it. So, you say, well, tickets are too high to go to a ball game, and this and that, and they are getting a little out of hand. I think I paid this summer $45 a ticket for an Atlanta Braves game, which I thought was a bargain. I thought it was a bargain.
That's because you're a true fan.
Yeah.
You'd pay anything to see the Braves play.
I thought it was a bargain. But what I'm saying is that, I mean, sports have got a little out of hand, really. Yeah. I mean,
Well, that brings, of course, some other articles that I come to.
But you could be right. Clemson, Florida State, and all them, they could be moving on,
Well, that's not me. I just was wondering. It's the Spun, and I don't know how. And I do read ESPN, but I don't sit there and watch ESPN. I read it, but I don't watch it. So I just want to be clear about that.
Well, it depends. I'm like you, probably. I watch ESPN if it's got something that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And, if they're going to say, if they're going to show the 10 o'clock sports for the day, and they go here and they go here, and they're going to soccer and they're going to tennis and golf and all this, I'm just, hey, just give me a score.
Yeah.
I'm an easy guy to satisfy. Tell me who won the game.
Yeah. That's all I want to know.
When I was in sports writing, that's the first thing I learned. Dang it, you better put score in there. People want to know who won the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw an article one time, and we're going to have to get on in a minute, but I saw an article one time, just say the dang score. You're talking about play-by-play guys. Just say the score. And I know, having listened to ball games through the years, a lot of times I'll turn the radio on because I want to hear the score. I can't got time, maybe working, or maybe I can listen or watch the whole game, but I'd like to check on the score. So it's nice if you turn your radio on. It's nice to be able to hear the score. And that's what this is a radio guy, say he wrote an article. Just say the dang scores. He used a different word, but I try to do that a lot. Just to say the score as much as you can.
I listen to
We're tied up, by the way. Me and you, we're tied up.
Well, anyway, the baseball, are you talking about baseball announcers? Baseball is a slow-moving sport compared to the other sports. Basketball, you have to have an announcer that can get with it up and down the court. Football, is with these high-octane offenses now that we have, you have to be ready to go. Well, baseball is kind of slow-moving sport. They've tried to get better with the clock and all that kind of stuff, or the pitch clock, as they call it. But I remember this baseball announcer one time. He said that he had one of those little sundials that you could turn up, down, upside, and every time it went to the end and got empty, he made sure he gave the score and then he'd turn it back.
Was this like every 24 hours he gave the score?
No, it was like...
Oh, it was like a little minute thing.
Yeah, a minute thing. Like he was giving it like every couple minutes, 3 minutes. Okay, folks, scores 5-4 now. So-and-so stepping in the box. I mean, it was just a simple,
An hourglass.
Yeah. One about like this.
You flip it over,
Or sundial, or what you call it.
It's funny you should mention that because our sand's about run out for this segment of the show.
It has?
Yeah, time flies when you're listening to Dale. But anyway.
Well, I think my mother likes you better than me on the show.
Okay, then. Tell us about. I love you, Mother. Tell us about your guest. Tell us about our guest tonight.
Man, I got an awesome guest tonight. I really do. His name is George Ranager, and George, he had a great high school career. Ended it in the All-Star game, catching 4 passes from Archie Manning in the high school All-Star game, which is, I believe, still a record. He played for Meridian High, played for Bob Tyler. They won the state championship that year. Then he went on, played for University of Alabama. Played wide receiver, played in the great historical 1969 33-32 Alabama win.
Game.
Caught the winning touchdown pass. Man. Then, of course, they went to the Wishbone the last couple of years he was there. So that kind of, he probably wasn't involved in it that much. Came back to Meridian, got involved in high school, really intramural officiating, and then high school officiating, and he worked his way up to his 25-year career SEC official.
Wow!
So he's been.
That's cool. We can talk about how somebody could become an official or an SEC official. I've met a couple in my time.
You have?
Yeah, and when I was doing some audits up in North Mississippi, the interim superintendent of schools at Greenville Public Schools at the time I was doing an audit up there back in '96 was an SEC official. I can't remember his name, but very impressive guy. Yeah. But anyhow, we're about out of time for our segment, and you got us a good one, Dale, like you always do. So let's take a commercial, and then you and I'll be back with tonight's guest right after this break. Sound like a winner?
Sound like a winner.
See you after the break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, George Ranager. George, glad to have you with us today. Marshall and I are excited to be able to talk to you about your sports career. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your high school days, where you're from, and then we'll just revolved into your college and playing days and after college.
Okay. First of all, let me tell you, I'm glad to be here. Glad I wanted to talk with y'all, and glad y'all were interested enough to give me a call and maybe reminisce about some of this stuff. I graduated in Meridian High School in 1967. I played under Coach Bob Tyler. It was his first year there at Meridian High School. He had came in, didn't have a spring practice with Coach Tyler. He came in after the spring and gathered us up and worked with us, and he was a real offensive, wide open coach, and we were glad to see that. He really wanted everybody to respect him and have hard work ethics and great conditioning. I mean, we ran and we got in shape, and nobody was going to beat us because we was out of shape. And we had some good athletes, and we threw the football all over the field and had a good quarterback by the name of Bob White and several other receivers, David Bailey, myself, Grady Coleman, Smiley Gibhart, Ted Gillette. We all chipped in and had a good running game, too. The running game kind of complemented the passing game, and we was able to win the Big 8 conference that year under Coach Tyler in our first year. And from there, I was lucky enough to have several schools interested in me, and I chose the University of Alabama, went over and played for Coach Bryant, and he took up right where Coach Tyler. Coach Tyler kind of led me into the preparation for being able to play under someone like Coach Bryant. He was well organized. Organization was one of his main assets, and he paid attention to small detail. He demanded respect. We gave him 100%. We never quit. He was a disciplinary coach. He wanted to make sure that we was well enough disciplined that we would go through the game and not lose our temper, just play real hard, nose football.
Well, listen, in your days with Coach Brian over there, you know, one of the most famous games, I guess, in Mississippi folklore is the famous 33-32 game your junior year. Tell us a little bit about that game and how that game transpired.
Yeah, that was played in Birmingham, and actually it's one of the first nationally televised collegiate football games on prime time. It may not have been the first one, but it had to be one of the first. And a little quick story about that game. It was supposed to kick off around 7 o'clock, 7:30. And when CBS had it, I believe, or ABC may have been the one that had it, Lawrence Welk had that time slot on Saturday night, and he wouldn't give it up. So therefore, we had to push our kickoff time back to, I think it was about 8:30 by the time we kicked off that football game. And it was a heck of a football game. A lot of scoring, wasn't a lot of defense in the second half. The score at halftime was actually 14-7. We scored right before halftime to go up 14-7. And then at halftime, I guess we made adjustments, and they did too, and the scoring just broke loose, wound up to be 33-32, I believe. And Ole Miss had the ball driving toward the end of the game, and I think they went for it on the fourth down, and we stopped them. And we wound up winning the game, 33-32. But I was lucky enough that I did score the winning touchdown in that ball game. It was on a fourth down play.
Wow.
and it was I think it may have been 4th and 14 or something like that. And Coach Bryant called timeout, and Jenny Sharp and Coach Steve Salone, our assistant coaches, were in the press box. And we went over and was talking to Coach Bryant, and Coach Bryant was waiting for somebody to make a call, make a play, tell us what to run. And Scott and I were sitting there looking, and we were looking at each other. And about that time, one of the referees came over and said, "Okay, Coach, let's go. It's time to play." So we turned and started running back to the huddle, and Scott realized he didn't have a place. He turned around and looked at Coach Bryant. Coach Bryant just said, "Run the best thing you got." And so we had some success with a couple of plays during the year, and so we ran what we called a comeback out route, and it was to the wide side of the field, and Scott made a good play. Johnny Musso made a great block. They knew what was coming, and they had blitzed. And Musso made a great block to give Scott enough time to throw the football, and he made a good throw, and I made the catch and was able to get in the end zone. And that was the last touchdown of the game.
Broke a lot of hearts over here in Mississippi. I remember that one.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of, I don't think the stadium held but about 84,000 people there, but I've had at least 100,000 people tell me that.
Maybe 200,000. Maybe 200,000 said the same game. I remember watching it on television, no black and white, and I think the biggest image that I remember from it, George, is that one of the Canards was walking Archie Manning off the field at the end of the game, and you could see all the tears flowing down Archie's face, and I think Archie became a national hero that night just because of maybe that shot that they had of him. But now listen, you were teammates with Archie kind of in high school for a ball game. Tell us about that ball game.
That was the All-Star football game in 1967. And I think it still has a lot of scoring records that's still standing. Archie threw me 3 touchdown passes. My quarterback at Meridian High School threw me 1. I wound up scoring 4 touchdowns that night. Archie threw, I think, 4 touchdowns. He threw another one to Jim Poole, I believe. And then he ran one in. So Archie was involved in a lot of the scoring as well as I was. And I think some of those offensive records still stand as of today. It was something like 53 to 33, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very high school. And it's hard.
One heck of a game.
Yeah, it's hard to score in an all-star game. Just getting everything on sync, with your offense and all that. Most of them that I see are covered in the past. They're like 20 to 13 or something, and everybody's struggling to even make a first down,
I think back in the late 60s and all, where most of the players played both ways, most of the All-Star teams were probably chosen on offense ability. And we just happened to play defense also because, most of the players played both ways at that time.
Yeah.
And Coach Tyler was our coach at the All-Star game. And Bob White started off the game. I think Coach Tyler had a plan saying that he was going to play Bob the first quarter and Archie the second quarter and then adjust after that in the second half. But Bob got hurt early in the game and had to come out. So Archie came in and filled in quite well, and we were running most of the plays. Our offense was a Meridian High School offense because Coach Tyler was the coach there at the All-Star game. And so we had a lot of plays that sort of favored the Meridian players, and so we ran them, and we had a good game. Wound up winning the game. And it was a hard-fought game. I mean, if you give up 33 points today, you would expect it may not win the game. We just was good enough to score 53, I think, something like that. I'd have to go back and look and see what it was.
Yeah, when I just going back on that too, a lot of people may not know some of the names that we're throwing out like Bob White, but now Bob White was an All-American. Is that right? High school, and Archie he wasn't very well known when he came to the All-Star camp, was he?
No, he wasn't. As a matter of fact, and I don't know this, but Coach Tyler has said that he got a phone call from Johnny Law wanting Coach Tyler to pick Archie on the All-Star team because Coach Law had signed Archie to Ole Miss at that time. But Bob White was the one that was probably the premier quarterback going into that game.
And everything. And so now, compare the Alabama roster that you were on. Did you know most of the Ole Miss players on the other side that night and when you played them for the next 3 years? Because a lot of those guys that were in that All-Star game, I think, ended up in Oxford, didn't they?
They certainly did. A lot of them did, and I knew them. And we were acquainted, and we had, I think, 4 more or either 5 more Mississippi boys that was on the Alabama team. So we were aware of all of the boys, and they were aware of us. It was a lot of talent on that field that night that played in that Mississippi High School All-Star game.
Who was, okay, now, after your college career and things like that, you came back to Meridian, but you still were involved in sports. Why don't you tell us about your second career in sports?
I got into officiating as I came out of the University of Alabama when I came back. And Jerry Yalver, a lot of people, that name would probably be familiar to a lot of people. He was the head of Parks and Recreation here in town. And he called me up and wanted to know if I would help him with a little Pee Wee football program that he was starting. And I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to. And so I got prepared and was thinking he was wanting me to coach one of the teams. And so when I showed up there that Saturday morning and told Jerry I was here, he said, great, George, I'm glad you came. And he threw me a whistle and a flag. And I looked at him and I said, good gracious. And, I don't know anything about officiating. He said, I thought you wanted me to coach. He said, I got plenty of coaching. He said, but I can't find officials. So that was my first experience as officiating. And then from there, I loved the game and I wanted to give back to the game. So I got involved with the local high school officiating association here and worked several years here, and probably 10 or 12 years maybe. And then I got a call one day, and the man asked me if I would be interested in furthering my career, going up the ladder a little bit. And I said, sure. And so he got with me, and he was a fellow official, older official that had been through it. And we decided that we'd start the process of officiating or applying for the Southeastern Conference. And I did that, and in 1985, the man that was ahead of officiating in the SEC by the name of Gordon Pettis, he took a chance on me, and I made the cut. And from 85 to 2010, 25 years, I was on the field officiating for the Southeastern Conference. Had a lot of great memories, a lot of great friends, a lot of great games.
Cool.
And then after my 2010 year, I retired from on the field and was approached and was asked if I wanted to continue a little bit by going into the booth and into the development of officials, younger officials. And so from 2010 to 2018, I was in the replay booth on the replay team for 8 years. That was a total of 33 years that I was involved with officiating in the Southeastern Conference.
I want to ask, this is Marshall, I want to ask you a couple of questions. We're getting close to being out of time, George, but I want to ask you a couple of questions. Officiating is just that's interesting to me. In your experiences, what would you like most about it, and what would you like least about it? Or maybe you love it all. I don't know. Talk to us about that.
Well, the least a bit about it that I disliked was probably the traveling. And the older I got in my later years of officiating, going through airports, it just got to be a big hassle to me.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the well, it may have been the only dislike that I had in my whole tenure of officiating, and the camaraderie of the officials and the coaches and the players, and just every Saturday going into a atmosphere on the college campus. It's nothing like it. It's just unbelievable. The only thing, by me playing in Alabama and going to school at Alabama, I never was able to officiate in Alabama. But I did officiate every part of the Southeastern Conference and all over the country with bowl games.
Right.
But it was just a great experience and a great time of my life.
George, you've made a huge mark on the sport. You've made a huge mark in Mississippi, and you made a big mark here with us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and sharing with us. It's been a special treat, and we thank you for this.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. You're real welcome. Thank you.
And George, this is Dale again. We do appreciate you being on. And I want to tell our listeners that we have a magazine article coming out that Today in Mississippi. It's a magazine put out by all the rural electric associations in the state, and the main feature in our sports in August will be on George Ranager.
That's outstanding. You got a good one.
There you go. Thank you, George.
George, we appreciate you. Hold on with us just a minute for us, if you would. We're going to take a break right now to hear from our sponsors, and Dale and I'll be back with the final segment after this commercial.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's final segment of the Brouhaha. Wow, man, George is awesome.
That was a good interview.
It was. And, I just regret we couldn't talk to him for about an hour.
Yeah, he would have been a good one.
Oh, man. Just, the officiating thing. I mean, I thought he did that a long time. You come to think of it, I probably watched him call dozens of games.
I remember them calling his name a few times.
Yeah.
And the quarterback that was at Hattiesburg in 2002 that upset Wayne County.
Carter Hankins.
Martin Hankins.
Martin Hankins.
He is going to be an SEC official this year.
Really?
Yeah. So, small world, isn't it?
It's a small world. It's a small world.
But I wanted to ask him a question, and we just ran out of time.
I'm sorry. It's my fault.
Yeah, it is. If you get more sponsors, we could have 2 hours. But I wanted to ask him, how many SEC coaches did he called games for over the years, because if you're in the league from 1985 to 2018, how many years is that? 33 years?
That's a pile of them.
Huh?
That's a bunch
You probably met a lot of head coaches.
I would say so.
And he never met Nick Saban. Because he couldn't call
the game. I'll be doggone.
Little quick thing as we prepare to wind up. Last week, we mentioned some coaches that were untouchable.
Really?
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think
you remember that? I think the first one was Nick Saban.
My memory's not that great, but if you say we did,
that's right, we did.
I have great trust in you.
All right, but this week we're gonna, just as a quick deal, we're gonna flip the table a little bit, or whatever it is you flip. Is it the table or is it the field? We're gonna flip the field. Flipping the field, and we got an article here. This is Stadium Talk article, and it's got the worst coaches in college football. We talked last week about the best. Mm-hmm. This is the worst ones. The number one, would you care to guess who the number one worst coach in college football is, according to Stadium Talk? Let me tell you. This is not my opinion now. This is Stadium Talk. Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, I could see it.
Come on, be a Kiffin hater.
No, I'm not a Kiffin hater. I can see some people. Yeah. A lot of people think he's not, he's.
I like him.
Yeah.
I believe.
Well, I mean, people keep talking, but every day I open up something.
He's getting them, isn't he?
He's getting a transfer from Clemson, or he's getting one from Miami, or he's getting one from. And they all 5 stars.
And all the time he's saying this is the ruination of college football, and he's lining them up. Yeah. I guess you got to play on the field they give you, right?
Yeah.
Here's another couple of names in behind lane: Mike Riley, John Malkovich, Gene Chiswick, and Charlie Weiss. But that's
Charlie Weiss and John Malkovich still coaching?
no. This, I guess, of all time.
Oh, of all time.
Yeah. But anyway, I digress. We've had a good time today. Always a good
Well,
time.
Southern Miss had one year.
Had one what?
They had a bad coach one year. 0-11.
Ellis Johnson.
Ellis Johnson.
You know, when they hired Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss and Ellis Johnson at Southern, I said, boy, that's Ole Miss has done terrible and Southern done great. Boy, was I. Of course, wait a minute. Well, we don't even get to that. Yeah, come on.
But in defense of Southern, they hired a guy that was in the mold that they had hired before, you know, like a Carmody or Bobby Collins, you know, somebody with a little gray hair that, you know, and it just backfired on them.
Boy, it wasn't worth
But
the
they
flip.
didn't have a quarterback that year. They tried to play.
Well, they ain't had a quarterback in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that's true, too.
They play Frank Gore at quarterback now.
Yeah. They had offered kid from Petal, true freshman, trying to play.
Yeah.
And it's just tough being a true freshman playing.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to wrap it up, Dale. We want our listeners to know they can keep up with us on Facebook at the Brouhaha, and all of our shows are archived where they can listen to them on our YouTube channel at the Brouhaha. Been a lot of fun, but you know what time it is. It's time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
And we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.